Hi everyone, in this video I'm going to explain how to approach the claim of value making a case for a stakeholder assignment. So you have a lot of information to gather for this assignment, but the way that it is structured will definitely, it'll show you how to organize your information, and each section has its own purpose. So let's talk about that. So the title page is the first thing your readers will see. The title of the assignment, your name, and the date submitted all are centered on the page. Make sure the title is specific to your stakeholder. Don't just repeat the generic assignment title. Um, you can make your font larger if you want to balance the page out. Sometimes people include an image, whatever works for you. Just make sure that it looks professional. The first main section your readers will come across as the background section. Now, the point of this section is to catch your reader up on everything that's happening. Now, your topic might have an extensive history. That's fine, but acknowledge that. But don't, obviously, don't spend too much time going from the beginning of the issue to what's happening now. Focus more on what is happening now. Give your readers that sense of urgency. It's still a thing, it still exists. All right. Make sure it's clear who these stakeholders are. I write in here, include a list of all stakeholders involved. You can do that in paragraph form, a bulleted list, whatever works for you. But it's just very important for your reader to understand the issue and the group of people or things that are at stake because of they have something, I'm sorry, they have something at stake. Now, control your scope. Instead of choosing lithium mining in a global sense, look at lithium mining in a specific town, right? So that you only have 10 main stakeholders to list. So if whatever topic you choose, just make sure that it has a narrow enough scope so that you can do the right type of research and you can provide concrete details. After we know what's going on, after we know who's involved, then you want to conclude by making it clear, what stakeholder is going to be discussed or who you're making a case for. However you want to make that happen, just make sure those three elements are there and that it's clear why, right, the subsequent information is going to be looking at this specific stakeholder. The next section, you present the stakeholder's perspective. So you will introduce who, what the stakeholder is, and what is actually at stake for them or it. And let's say you choose a person, you would want to get direct quotations from that person, studies, where they have looked at situations where those people are involved, podcasts, whatever it is, but you want to actually collect the stakeholder's perspective through their lens. Hard evidence. It's not your opinion yet. This is just what this stakeholder is saying. If you choose the environment as your stakeholder, this is where you would introduce the scientist's perspective or whoever it is that's doing the studies that show the impact on the environment. It's got to be through the stakeholder's point of view. And really try, when you collect that perspective information, really try to find things that touch on the values this stakeholder has. That'll look a little different for each of you, but essentially you're really just trying to find, um, the parts of it that would move your reader to understand, wow, their local food source is at stake, etc. Okay. And then this section is your next section. So now we understand, what's going on. We have learned about this specific stakeholder through their eyes. Now we get to learn why we should care about the situation. Now, of course, if you're explaining what's at stake, or we know what's happening to your stakeholder and we see their environment as being destroyed, a lot of people would already know why they should care. But this is looking a little deeper into that. If their values are affected by the situation, why are their concerns, valid? You could look deeper into the issue here. And again, this is a harder argument to present to some audiences because not everybody cares about the same thing. But what if there's something going on in the background that people just aren't considering? And so, if a stakeholder has been affected by a decision someone else made, what does that mean? Right. And so this area, this look, it will look different for each one of you. But let's say you choose a very vulnerable stakeholder, and you could look at how other stakeholders might be holding that stakeholder down. Um, is it, is it enough, right, to say that uh, science for science's sake, uh, think about the Mauna Kea thing again. We're looking at native, spiritual connection to land. And then we also have another stakeholder that shows that if we had this telescope, we could see things and understand space a way we never knew. And so, again, you could look at the subtleties between all the people involved and let your readers know, okay, now I've learned about this perspective. What is it that I can internalize and understand, maybe a deeper thing, a bigger picture? And then you conclude. And in this section, you're going to look to the future, right? Talk about the big, the bigger items here. What happens when we don't look at a topic or a new idea through the lens of all stakeholders? And what I mean is not necessarily like the people, the stakeholders themselves, but just as an audience, just as community members or whatever we are, right? As individuals, why is it important, right, to understand these perspectives? What gives, what kind of, in, I guess, what kind of credibility does it give somebody to look at the perspectives like this before they make a choice? Now, you aren't advocating here, and some of this information in your conclusion might be a little repetitive based on what you've had in previous sections, and that's okay. We're not advocating for change, so you're not going to say, okay, don't buy plastic water bottles. No, 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 no. What's at stake if we don't just keep having these conversations? Think about all those ways that science and social justice, intersect. And maybe, you just will again talk about some of the things that you brought up before, but really just don't spend all your time just summarizing everything. Push yourself to do a little something different in this conclusion. And then we look at format. You want to use ninth edition for in-text citations and for the works cited page. And again, use MLA format for the body of the text, like double space, 12-point font. But obviously, you'll use the title page instead of the usual header. And then use the headings provided on the outline to organize your material. The headings will just be essentially, heading, subsequent text, heading, subsequent text. You can bold your headings if you want to give them more emphasis, and or you can start each section on its own page. It's fine. Just make sure you have all the other elements of MLA going on in there. Okay, well, that covers the objectives of each one of these sections. Of course, if you have any questions, you can always email me. And thanks for all your hard